I know everybody loves a good home-cooked meal, but if I'm being honest and realistic, I just don't have a lot of time to spend in my kitchen these days putting together meals for my family from scratch. Sometimes I just need a few shortcuts. I made a video recently where I shared some of my favorite convenience items that I keep on hand that I can use in conjunction with other fresh ingredients to create some easy meals for my family. And today we're gonna continue with that topic, and I'm gonna share some ideas for semi-homemade meals, because just because we can't make everything from scratch doesn't mean we can't still make some delicious meals right in our own kitchens for ourselves and our families. This video is in collaboration with my friend Jen over at Chapin. Jen is a full-time working mom, and she still finds time to put out videos every week on her channel showing what's going on in her household, primarily in her kitchen. And let me tell you something, Jen can cook. I am a person who I would say prepares meals because I do use a lot of shortcuts in my cooking, which is why this semi-homemade thing is sort of right up my alley. But the way Jen cooks is accessible to just about everybody, and it is also appealing to a lot of different palates, and the food that she prepares is absolutely delicious. A lot of you who are longtime See Mindy Mom watchers, you probably also watch Jen, but be sure that you go and check out her channel after you watch this video. I will leave her semi-homemade video linked in the description box below. I mentioned this in that shortcuts video that I made before this one, which by the way, I will also leave linked in the description box below. But the idea for this semi-homemade video kind of stems from this show that I used to watch on the Food Network. I think it was on the Food Network years and years ago with Sandra Lee, called Semi-Homemade. And she would often take some kind of convenience ingredient, something that is prepared or packaged from the store, and she would add other things to it to round out the recipe. Things like frozen prepared meals, or biscuit dough, or box cake mixes, etc. You kind of get the idea. I made a few recipes specifically for this video, but I feel like I kind of follow this line of thinking a lot with my cooking, so I will try to share some other ideas that I have mentioned in previous videos as well. I knew for this video that I wanted to come back to the idea of using a box of Hamburger Helper and adding stuff to it to, you know, make it better. And I'm almost like overstimulated because I'm sitting here looking at all the different kinds, and just off the top of my head I can think of like half a dozen things that I could do with these. Making soups, making casseroles, making tacos or enchiladas. I could probably do an entire video around just this concept, but for this video I'm gonna go with this 4-cheese lasagna, and we're gonna get some other stuff to add to it. Here's something interesting, friends. I'm looking for some fire roasted tomatoes to include in this. So in the Great Value brand, they're $1.36. Yep, fire roasted diced tomatoes right there. But over here in the Hunt's brand, $1.24. So this is the name brand. I'll be interested to see if it rings up for that price, because I know that Walmart, they're kind of catching up with changing all the prices out due to inflation. So I'm gonna go with this. I'm just gonna get the plain old fire roasted ones. Fire roasted diced, yep, that's what I want. Now you can use ground beef if you want for what I'm gonna do with this. I also thought about using ground Italian sausage, but I think I'm going to actually slow cookerize this. You could certainly do what I'm going to do on the stove, but I've been using my crock pot so much lately, even for me, and I use my crock pots a lot. You know this if you watch my channel. The pace we are keeping in our household is just so busy that it's really helpful to be able to throw something in the crock pot and have it ready at dinner time, or have it stay warm so people can eat it in shifts. So I'm actually going to pick up a package of fully cooked meatballs. I'll probably only use half the package in this recipe, but I think that's what I'm gonna use as the protein in place of ground beef. I'm gonna take the easy route for this and get some pre-shredded some pre-shredded cheese in the Italian 5-cheese blend. I'm splurging on the Kraft too, because what they had available in the Great Value brand didn't look as good. I did decide to go with Italian sausage for this recipe, which I have browned here in my crock pot on the saute function. I do think this would work well with meatballs, and you wouldn't even have to brown anything because the frozen meatballs are fully cooked. I would just use 1 pound of those. Just for whatever reason, I thought this sounded better tonight, so that's what I'm going with. And now I'm just going to add my can of fire roasted diced tomatoes, the seasoning packet from the box mix, 1 cup of water, and 1.5 cups of milk. And I'm going to pop the lid on this and let it cook on the slow cook high setting, high slow cook for about 3 hours, and then we will come back and finish it up. Future Mindy popping in here to say that I ran into a little problem with this recipe. So stay tuned to the end because I will show you exactly how I was able to troubleshoot that and give some suggestions for how you can avoid the problem that I ran into altogether. I actually almost nixed this recipe and was gonna start all over for this video, but it turned out so delicious and so fantastic that I still wanted to share it with you. And honestly, here on my channel, I try to be realistic. And if we're being realistic about cooking, sometimes you run into a problem and you gotta find a way to fix it. And sometimes there is a way to salvage it. This has been cooking on high for 3 hours now. So we're gonna come back and kind of finish it out. I'm going to stir in the pasta from the box of Hamburger Helper. I want to make sure that all of that is submerged in the liquid. And then this next step is totally optional. You can skip this and go straight to the shredded cheese if you want. But just to give this a little bit more of a lasagna flair, I'm going to drop small spoonfuls of cottage cheese into the mixture. Leave me a comment below. Do you prefer ricotta cheese? I know that that is the traditional to use in lasagna and in pasta dishes like this. I just like the taste of cottage cheese better, so I tend to use that in my lasagna style dishes. I'm just gonna top this with my shredded cheese. You could shred your own. I'm taking the shortcut tonight and I'm using an Italian blend, just like I showed you in the store. I'm gonna pop the lid back on this and let it continue cooking on high until the noodles are done. It usually takes mine anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes depending on which crock pot I'm using, how hot it cooks. I also figured that a lasagna meal isn't quite complete without some kind of bread product. You know, a piece of garlic toast or a garlic knot or a breadstick. And I could just buy a loaf of prepared bread from the bakery and slice it up, put some butter and garlic salt on it, put it under the broiler for a couple minutes to make garlic toast. I have also made garlic knots from biscuit dough and breadstick twists from refrigerated pizza dough before. It's just all in the way that you shape the dough and what you put on top of it before you bake it. But for this meal, I decided to use Rhodes rolls, and I gotta say, I've been on a kick with those lately. I feel like I could do an entire video with just what you can do with Rhodes rolls. You find them in the freezer section. They're just little bitty dough balls. They're frozen. It gives you instructions for how to let them thaw and rise on the package. So I just got a glass casserole dish, 9 by 13, and I filled it with the rolls. I think I was able to fit about 15 of them in there, and I let them thaw and rise according to the package directions. It took mine about 3 hours to rise completely, and they definitely doubled or even tripled in size. Before I baked them in the oven, I topped them with a mixture of butter, fresh garlic, Mr. Stick's herb seasoning, and a little bit of Parmesan cheese. I set mine to bake at 350 for 15 minutes, but I gotta be honest, I was outside whenever the timer went off, so mine got just a little bit brown on the top because I let them bake for just a couple minutes too long. We are going to have green beans as a veggie side tonight, and I'm going to upgrade these steam in the bag green beans. I've already tossed them in the microwave for the recommended time, and now I'm just going to put them in a skillet with some butter, about 2 tablespoons of butter and about 1 clove of minced garlic. I'm going to season them with a little bit of Auntie Nono's. You could use garlic salt, and then I'm going to top them with breadcrumbs and just saute those together in the skillet, and they'll be ready to eat. The issue that I ran into with this recipe is that it was just a little bit runny. There was a lot of liquid in the recipe, and I remedied this by putting a paper towel underneath the lid while the pasta was cooking so that it would catch some of that condensation. And then when it was done cooking, I removed the lid and turned the crock pot off and just let it sit for about 20 minutes, and it definitely thickened and it kind of set up while it was cooling down. I often have this problem with lasagna and honestly with Hamburger Helper in general. In fact, I think on the box the directions might even state to let it stand for 10 to 15 minutes to give the sauce a chance to thicken up. If you wanted to make it in the crock pot the way that I did, you might try just reducing the liquids a little bit, just use a little bit less water and a little bit less milk, and maybe there wouldn't be quite so much moisture in the end. Or you can make it on the stove, which I would do by following the box directions, except adding those tomatoes and the cottage cheese in with the pasta and the milk and the water and the seasonings that it has, and then waiting to add the shredded cheese on top until the very end when I'm ready to serve it. But it still was so delicious. Everybody in my family liked it, and they've asked when I can make it again. They had no idea that it was from a box of Hamburger Helper, so highly recommend. Years and years ago, I discovered this cupcake recipe that starts with the box mix, and it makes the absolute best, most amazing cupcakes. I have made these so many times, so many ways, for so many different occasions, that I have the recipe memorized and I don't even remember where I got it, who gave it to me, if it's from a website or whatnot. But I have mentioned it many times on my channel before, and every time I go down the rabbit hole looking for the B-roll of me making these cupcakes, and I can't find it. So I'm not sure that I've ever actually shown the original recipe the way that I've been making these cupcakes for years. So we're gonna do that today. And I'm gonna show you some of the shortcuts and some of the semi-homemade aspects of these cupcakes that taste absolutely fantastic. Once you learn how to make these cupcakes and you see how easy it is, you will never feel the need to overspend on bakery cupcakes again. For this cake recipe, or cupcake recipe in this instance, but you can make cakes with it as well, you will need 1 standard size box of cake mix, 1 box of Jell-O instant pudding, 4 eggs, 1 cup of oil, 1 cup of sour cream, and ½ a cup of milk. I just combine all of the ingredients into a bowl and use my electric mixer to mix it all together for about 2 minutes or so until everything is combined. And then I use a large cookie scoop to scoop it into a lined cupcake tray. And I have a special cupcake tray that actually makes 24 cupcakes at a time, and it fits perfectly into my oven rack. Like, it just slides right in where the racks normally go. But I have used just 2, 12 count cupcake pans before. And if you're wondering if the batter for these is delicious, it is. And since I'm making these while the kids are at school, I get to lick the bowl. I bake mine at 350 for 18 to 20 minutes, and mine usually come out just the way that I want them. I'm always a little bit hesitant at giving finite baking times or cooking times because your oven, your stove, the conditions in your kitchen might be different from mine. So just keep an eye on them. As is the case with most cakes, when you take a toothpick and insert it into the center of the cake or the cupcake and it comes out clean, that usually means that it's done. Now with these cupcakes, not only am I taking a shortcut by starting with a box mix and then adding different things to make it even better, I also have a little shortcut that I have discovered works fantastic where the icing is concerned. And I've mentioned this before, so if you watch my channel, you probably know what I'm gonna say, but I will go up to the bakery counter in Walmart, or I've done this in Target as well, and I will ask them to give me a pound of buttercream icing. The lovely lady working the bakery counter today at Walmart accidentally gave me 2 pounds of buttercream icing, but that's okay. It will be just fine, and my kids will be delighted, and quite frankly, my husband and myself too, because we'll just put the leftovers in the fridge, and it's really delicious on top of graham crackers. But what I love about this is that a lot of times they will even put it into a piping bag for me. So all I have to do is cut the tip off the piping bag, pipe the frosting right over the top of the cupcakes, and then decorate them however I want. And then I don't have a bunch of extra dishes and bowls that I have dirtied up making the icing. I don't have like powdered sugar all over my kitchen, which is usually what happens when I try to do it myself. And in my opinion, this icing is delicious. It's nice and fluffy. It has a nice texture. It doesn't really melt off of the cupcakes if I'm making them in the summertime. So that's what I've been doing lately whenever I've been making these cupcakes. Another great thing about this cake recipe is that it's really versatile. Ruthie requested chocolate cupcakes with white icing for her birthday, which, child after my own heart, because that's my favorite kind of cake, chocolate cake with white buttercream icing. So that's what I'm making today, which is why I used a chocolate cake and a chocolate pudding mix. But I have made these with all different kinds of cake mixes and different pudding flavors. I've made vanilla ones with a white cake mix and a vanilla pudding flavor. I've used a strawberry cake mix before. I've even used a strawberry cake mix with a lemon pudding mix to make kind of like a strawberry lemonade type cupcake for the summer. So you can kind of experiment with the different flavors so that, you know, you can make different kinds of cakes and cupcakes. I have been on YouTube for about 4.5 years, and in that time I have made hundreds of videos. So with my newer videos, I like to sometimes mention other things or other recipes that I have tried that fit within that specific topic or category that we have liked or that have worked for us. And as I stated in the beginning of this video, I feel like the semi-homemade concept, using a combination of fresh, scratch ingredients and convenience ingredients, is something that I do a lot in my kitchen. So here's a little roundup of some other recipes that we like and that I continue to make that sort of fall into that category. In the video I made a couple weeks ago where I mentioned the specific convenience items I pick up for semi-homemade meals, I did make a casserole that night from taquitos. I called it lazy enchiladas, but I used instant rice and rotel and corn and enchilada sauce and the taquitos and cheese, and it turned out fantastic. In fact, we had some friends over the next night and they were helping us kind of eat up leftovers, and they asked for the recipe. They asked me how I made that because they and their kids liked it so much. I've also mentioned many times the 2-ingredient meal hack where I take a rotisserie chicken and I take the meat off of the bone and then I mix it with a carton of dip, like a ranch dip or a buffalo chicken dip, and we can make sandwiches from it or put it on baked potatoes or stir it into some cooked pasta for like a really easy pasta dish. Fantastic. 7-Up biscuits. I have made these so many times now. It's just 4 ingredients. I will leave a recipe linked in the description box below. I cannot make biscuits from scratch myself that taste better than these biscuits. I'm telling you, they are so good. Some people call them butter swim biscuits. If you've heard of those before, I think it's sort of the same idea. In an extreme budget meals video that I made last winter, I made a tomato soup from just 2 ingredients, a jar of pasta sauce and a cup of heavy cream, and it was so delicious. I don't think I've actually had tomato soup from a restaurant or from scratch that tasted as good as that. And I mentioned it to my oldest sister, and she likes it so much that it's actually on their menu consistently at their household as a really easy meal. Whip up a few grilled cheese sandwiches or maybe some cheese quesadillas to go along with it. Complete meal with a convenience item, and I don't think anybody would know that it's a jar of pasta sauce that is actually making up the base of that tomato soup. I don't need to mention that biscuit dough and crescent dough are great shortcut ingredients. I've used those in a variety of recipes, but I also really like to buy the canned pizza dough and use it to make stromboli or pizza braids or pizza pockets. All kinds of toppings you can use for that. Vegetables, cheeses, leftovers can really be a fantastic shortcut. And speaking of pizzas, have you ever thought about using just a regular frozen cheese pizza as a base for creating something fancier? I've used them many times to make like a buffalo chicken pizza or a pulled pork pizza. It's really great to just start off with that base and then put other toppings, maybe leftover meats, cheeses, vegetables that we have in the fridge, but I don't have to go to the trouble of making the dough from scratch. Just an idea. Thank you so much for watching, and if you are coming over here from Jen's channel, I hope that you will stick around and see if there are any other ideas that I have here on my channel that could help you out. Don't forget to check out Jen's video as well. It's linked in the description box below. If you go over to her channel, let her know that I sent you. Pick out one of these videos to watch next, and I'll see you soon.